You're in line for one more fine time.
Welcome back to Furry Time, the fluffy and quirky segment of Fine Time. I'm Vin, Dre's curmudgeon in crime, but we also have one of the Poke Pals himself, Mr. Ampy. Welcome back to the show.
Thanks, happy to be back here for another fine time.
We're happy to have you. We're here to talk about Theatrhythm Final Bar Line, and in a manner of speaking, this is a follow-up to our earlier Rhythm Game Obscurities and Oddities show. If you've listened to that one, many thanks. It's not obligatory to listen to that one first, but we dove into our history with rhythm games and our experiences with the predecessor, Theatrhythm Final Fantasy Curtain Call, so it may provide some extra context. And we also touched upon our expectations for this game. We wanted to talk about it because it's a superlative experience. 2023 saw so many banger releases, of course, including Final Fantasy 16, coincidentally enough. We'll get into that one later, but we wanted to really talk about how it really lives up to these games. As much as a rhythm game can, anyway. Final Bar Line really encapsulates the history of Final Fantasy and so much more, and it has some quirks, but it's so immense in scale. We wanted to tackle some of our favorite bits and pieces and dive into some of the mechanics and music. So, what do you say? Let's dive in, huh?
Dive in. All right, let's do this.
So what is this game? It's a music game with role-playing elements. You use buttons and analog sticks to hit on-screen cues. That's like the simplest way of putting it. But on top of that, you pick a party of 4 members and you level them up in order to fulfill optional quests. In terms of why the heck the name is so weird, like Final Bar Line? If the preceding games were called Theatrhythm Final Fantasy, where's the Final Fantasy? So apparently one Tetsuya Nomura, because of course it'd be Nomura, suggested the name, which I guess is meant to be a tribute to more titles than just Final Fantasy, which I guess makes sense, but you think from a branding perspective, maybe the Final Fantasy part should have been in there. It could have been a good idea.
It's a bit of a mystery, but I mean, you still know what it is. You look at the screen, it's the same experience you've known from the past game, so nothing's changed there.
Yeah, I suppose it makes sense, like, the moment we look at it, but even so, it's like, But yeah, this was a really hype lead-up period, right? There was a trailer that went up September 2022, a few months before the game came out, that following February. So it claimed 385 songs from Final Fantasy games, plus 90 from other Square Enix games, plus like another 27 in like the deluxe edition, which is like an insane amount of content by like literally any video game standards, right? And I know my first reaction was like, that's like way more songs than any other rhythm game in existence. Like, can you even think of one that even comes close? Like, in terms of like home releases? Like, I can't think of anything.
Definitely not home releases. I mean, even arcade games, we're talking like a select few games that have something that spans that much. Like, it's really a lot to take in.
It's a lot, yeah. I mean, maybe if you like bought literally every Rock Band song or something, you'd probably eclipse that, maybe? I didn't do the math on this one, so I don't really know for sure. But just like out the gate, like this is a lot, right? And the notable part was that the DLC schedule was going to span the entire year up until the following November 2023, which is like a pretty long time. So one thing that kind of struck me as a little odd, though, is that the game has 3 different SKUs. There's the base, there's a deluxe, and then there's a premium edition. So like, at first, I wasn't really sure what to spring for, but over time, it really dawned on us that we should just do the premium. And it's well spent. It's money well spent. And we'll get into that and many more throughout the show. So in terms of the game itself, we want to dive into the overall flow and feel of the game. So what is it like? It has some series quests. It basically lets you experience the timeline of a full Final Fantasy game, all the way from like the beginning, like the town themes and stuff, to boss songs, to like final boss songs. So you really get that whole experience, right? But once you like actually have played a song, you can do whatever you want in like free play. And of course, there's also like multiplayer, because everything's got to have multiplayer nowadays. And in terms of how this game compares to its predecessors, it follows a similar flow of clearing songs in order to unlock more content to get more characters. But compared to Curtain Call, which was the 3DS game, unlocking characters just feels so much more natural, right? Because in Curtain Call, like, I feel like I kind of gave up after like hunting a gazillion shards to try to get people, and there was just a bunch of extra like shenanigans that you had to go through, and this game kind of does away with a lot of that.
Yeah, it feels a lot more just straightforward. You go to series quest, you unlock your favorite entry's base characters, and then you get keys to unlock other games in the series that you feel like doing. And then once you finish up a particular entry, you get a few more characters, and it's just a nice system. And leveling up and all the different stat boosts work a lot more smoothly. I really don't miss the shard stuff from before you mentioned, because that could just take a really long time compared to what it is now.
It just dawned upon me, like, once you get like shards, don't you have to like pick somebody too? So like, it's not only just getting the shards, you have to like actually pick favorites or something. Or it's like really convoluted before, but if I remember correctly, right?
Yeah, I forget the details entirely, but it was something along those lines. You had to get particular rare versions of that and then combine them in certain ways. Long story short, I don't miss it.
Yeah, exactly, right? Fancy just actually playing the game. Another difference is that the summon time parts of charts are gone. So like in the previous game, like there's a dedicated section that kind of just condenses all 4 lanes into like one, and like you hit the things and you, if you do it right, you get the summon, and if you don't do it right, you just do like a chocobo or whatever. So like they did away with like this entire flow, and I think it's just cleaner this way.
Oh, definitely. Summoning is now just this bar that you build up over time rather than just in a single section of the song. It's great because if you've got more abilities set around that, which we'll get into, you can actually get those summons out quicker or get a whole bunch of them in one song if you play your cards right. So it's a little bit more versatile in how you can play around with it.
Yeah, it's because I think before it was a little too like rigid, and now it's like you can get a whole bunch of summons if you do it right, which is kind of fun. There's one kind of weird thing though. The game kind of revolves around using both sticks, which is kind of a thing that wasn't really an issue in the previous 3DS game because, that game is really just about swipes or like whatever, right? But in this game, I was like, well, like there's no touchscreen, so that's kind of weird at first. So like I was a little worried that like the Switch Pro controller's like joystick asymmetry was going to be a potential thing, but I think like I got used to it pretty quick. I don't think it took me like too long. I would say like anywhere from like maybe like 10 to 15-ish hours. Like I wasn't even remotely a concern, probably like sooner than that. But I wasn't really feeling playing this on PlayStation. I kind of want to have it on the go, so like that's just the way it went. But I will say, like, if I try to play this on like Joy-Cons, it kind of feels really strange, so like I gotta do the Pro Controller on this one.
Yeah, it's definitely some getting used to. I also did the Switch version, and I generally use the Pro Controller whenever I'm playing the game. But there are some things that can still throw me off. There's a few different types of slide arrows that can show up that are a little bit tricky to get used to working both sticks at once. It's a good addition, but it can be really tricky, especially some of the unusual ways they can show up.
Yeah, there's a tiny bit of a learning curve, I think, but it's not like it's not like the toughest, but yeah, it can throw you off at first. There's one feature for the previous games that returns. That's the field stages. So like essentially you tap or you have to drag the whole note up or down. But there's no touch screen, right? So there's no granularity. It's pretty much just like you go all the way up or all the way down. So like I wasn't really sure. Does this is it like a lesser experience to just go up and down rather than like actually like being kind of subtle about it? Because I think at first I tried to like do like tiny little analog directions and I kept missing. I'm like, why am I missing? But then it occurred to me, no, just hold up and down, man.
Yeah, that was definitely something that threw me off. And at first I wasn't sure I was actually going to be able to get used to it. I also was doing the same thing, just barely tilting the stick for making the little indicator go up and down. But later, it turns out, you can just push it all the way up or down and it'll work just fine. It does take getting used to, but in practice, it's nice. It's not quite the same as working with the stylus before, but it still works fine. And the other neat thing with the field stages is they've got fights now too. Before it would just be, oh, your character's running through a field, trying to get as far as you can. Now you actually have to get ready for battles too. So you can't just have Team Speedy McGee just newming your way across the field. So you actually need to cover your bases and get ready for a scrap if it comes to it.
Wait, battling in a Final Fantasy game on the field? Wait, what? You gotta be kidding me. That's messed up. We gotta dive into the game's flow and replayability. And what really stands out is that, to me, it gives you the freedom to set your own goals, right? You can tackle it however you wish. For some people, you can choose to unlock all the tracks and characters. And if you want to if you want to dig a little deeper, you can level up all the characters, or you can do all the optional like quests that are featured in each stage, and maybe even like do all the songs that you can at each difficulty. But the beauty of that is that you don't have to do every single difficulty if you don't want to. Like, I know plenty of people that have just stuck with certain difficulties and they enjoy the full experience of the game. It's like fine.
It's really one of the strong points of this title. If you just want to enjoy playing the songs, you don't even need to engage with all the party mechanics that much. You can even have the game choose a character's abilities for you using this optimize button. And there's little items you can get that recover your health mid-song if you're just having trouble squeaking through that last really tough chart. So you've got options.
Items in a Final Fantasy game? Okay, I'm
What'll they think of
great.
next?
No, yeah, it's true. Potions? High potions and potions?
Phoenix Down? Unthinkable.
That's right, it has Phoenix Downs too. Oh, it's great. Oh my god. But that's true. There's all sorts of things that you can toggle, so it's not just like, oh, I'm screwed by this hard-ass chart. I can actually like do other things to like sort of make it more lenient if need be, right? So that's really cool. And like I've totally used some of it too, quite honestly.
Fine time, fine time, fine time, fine time.
There's so many features in this game, so we're gonna have to rat some off. And there's a ton of things that we were particularly impressed by that stand out compared to the previous games. I feel like I'm saying that a lot compared to the previous games, but their jacket covers per song. In the 3DS game, it was just a list of tracks, which is easy to forget. So this is technically a feature that debuted in the arcade game Theatrhythm All-Star Carnival, but actually seeing these jacket covers and like this particular home version of the game, it really adds a lot of character. And like I chuckled when I like scrolled through Record Keeper, which like spoofs all other Final Fantasy games. It just shows like the main character Tyro showing these like goofy expressions next to like other Final Fantasy characters. I thought that was like really funny.
Oh, they had a lot of fun working with these here. There's a couple in particular. They're really these cheeky little references if you've played the game in question. A couple here and there, but they definitely had fun getting those set up. It's even if you haven't played the game, some of them are pretty bold and striking too. So it's a really fun addition compared to the past ones.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely. Absolutely. Yeah, a little bit of a little digs. If you know, you know. There's a substantial variety of in-song backgrounds. They really did their due diligence to make sure you're experiencing the games. So like if you're fighting the last boss or if you're doing the last boss song of any given Super Nintendo Final Fantasy game, you get that funky atmospheric space. Sometimes the background scroll and whatnot too. And I don't know why do you like fight in atmospheric space? That never made like any sense to me.
It's just all about that cosmic scale, man. It's the final boss. You got to have a spectacle.
Oh, okay. All right. Got it. Yeah.
But no, the backgrounds are great, especially some of the non-Final Fantasy titles too. A couple of other series, you'll actually see the final bosses in the background, even if it normally is just, in the past, it would just be sort of a basic little simple background. Now you've actually got final bosses showing up in the background doing all these things throughout the song. So there's a lot more variety than there used to be. Or you'll see little locales from some of the games in question, whether it's the main Final Fantasy games or a couple of the other guest games that show up from time to time.
Yeah, it's cool, man. Yeah, especially those DLC tracks. They really did a lot of they really modeled them out, man. You really get to see that stuff in the background, and it's like it's cool they didn't just half-ass like the DLC songs that way, right? the user interface is super striking to me. Everything's so readable. There's a touch of elegance at every corner. Sometimes there's a little like whimsical drawings, and sometimes the backgrounds are just scrolling through of like randomized jacket covers, which adds a lot of character, right? And one thing I particularly enjoyed was like the series quests, as it has like this funky sort of vertical scrolling, but it really makes you feel like you're journeying through a field. I really like that too. In a similar vein, I like the streamer overlay. I thought that was really with the times. I've totally used that a bunch on my streams. It's a great way to show off different like data, right? So like you can see like the controller inputs, you get to see the timing, you get to see like, well, and so you can see how many like critical notes are great or like whatever. The difficulty of the song in question, and so like actually seeing all this stuff at the same time is like really neat. So it helps like provide additional bit of information for the viewers, and I thought that was thoughtful of them to do. There's so many difficulties. We've kind of touched on this already, but we briefly messed with pair mode, which is basically those are like 2-player versions of each song. So which like sometimes I'll press notes and then sometimes you'll press notes. I thought that was like really, really cool. And so there's 4 difficulties, but there's even like another like simple mode on top of that, so you can reduce things to like a single input. Like if you really want to like ease up the tension, so to speak, right?
Yeah, they've done a great job just making this game fun to enjoy, even if you're brand new to rhythm games, or if you want to play with a friend, or if you've got some past experience and want to push it to the limit. So just to lay it out, you've got Basic, Expert, Ultimate, and new since Curtain Call, we've got Supreme. Not all charts have this, but it's like an especially difficult chart where sometimes they'll throw a few particularly tricky things that you don't see anywhere else. So you've really got to have your game locked in order to really excel at those charts.
Is it just me, or is maybe Supreme a little confusing after Ultimate, because I kept swapping the two? I'm like, wait, nope. Should it be like vice versa?
Oh, I did the same thing. It kind of feels like it's not really Ultimate if it's not at the top, right? You know, it's just penultimate or whatever.
It's for phony. It's false advertising. I'm just kidding. It's fraudulent. And to some degree, the last feature that I wanted to point out was the songless organization, and like it's sort of draconian in a way, but having like the mainline Final Fantasy just as a single song list separate from their spin-offs, I thought that was really interesting. So like you'll have like the Final Fantasy 7 series, which includes like Advent Children and Crisis Core and all that stuff. It's like a completely separate playlist from like Final Fantasy 7. Whereas in Curtain Call, some of that stuff was a little more mixed up. And like the Final Fantasy 13 is one thing, and then the Final Fantasy 13 series is like a separate thing. So like 13.2 and Lightning Returns are separate. And I thought that was kind of cool when like they wanted to make sure that you're not scrolling through a gazillion million things. And I also like breaking things up into Square Enix titles is also pretty useful too. I thought that was great.
Yeah, it's great because some of those lists, like you said, would just be a chore to scroll through. And when you've got that much representation for a game or a series of games that are all kind of connected, it makes sense to sort of separate it out like that. So it's a bit easier to sort through. And yeah, doing the separate titles a little bit later on makes it nice in order to scroll through the whole history of the series. It's a nice little touch.
It is. It really is. Yeah. So like and speaking of new things, how do you feel about like the new multi-button like presses? Because in the 3DS game it was basically one press at a time, but and even though like technically speaking the arcade kind of debuted this, but this game debuts 4 presses at once, right? So like those are wild. And man, did you have any particular impressions like when you saw that?
Oh, yeah. Some of those charts that we'll see later on really got into some fun ways of handling them. If you're got something like 4 different holds, sometimes you'll be juggling which button's holding down what. So you got to keep track. Okay, well, this finger is bottom lane, this other finger is top lane, and you're doing all kinds of other rhythms in between. You usually don't see those outside of Supreme difficulty, which is, again, the most extreme version of the chart. But when they do show up, it feels really good to hit those and get through the chart with them.
Yeah, I've totally like accidentally let go of a button too early because I'm like, wait, that was for that late. Oh, by the time I realized it was too late, so it's good. But it's a nice mental challenge. It's nice it's playing like the sort of spaghetti or octopus shenanigans, whatever you want to call it, right? It's pretty fun. And yeah, Square Enix also had an attention to detail. I heard some rumblings like when the game came out that maybe some of the on-screen note sync was like a little funky, but they actually rolled out a patch that April that lets you really expand like and tweak the tuning, the timing, so that it wasn't just like a few numbers. Like you could really change it. I personally didn't mess with this too much, but I thought that was really cool and thoughtful of them to like, you know, address that, because like some people were like, wait, Curtain Call was more like synced up or like whatever, but you know, I didn't really have too much of a problem with it, but I thought it was still cool that they did that.
Yeah, I messed around with the timing a little bit at first. It is a bit tricky because now you're dealing with the TV screen instead of just whatever device you're holding it on. But ultimately, it was nice to have that option in case there was a bit of lag going on depending on what you're using.
We need to put on our Lita's rhythm game like shoes, man. This LCD's got input lag.
3 frames of delay. No, that ain't happening.
I gotta get my CRT. I'm just kidding. No, we're not those people. We're not those. I don't mind seeing a CRT every so often, but
let's not bring elitism to Final Bar Line.
Yeah, exactly. We gotta get into the music. That's the most important part of the music game, right? So we gotta get into the rhythm here. And the first question is, did you have any songs that you like to play or revisit?
Yeah, so I'm a really big fan of the SNES and the PS1 range of titles, plus 10 on the very end of that, and there's a whole lot of great picks in there. You got some of the more energetic battle stages like 8's The Man with the Machine Gun, you've got 9's The Darkness of Eternity, and then you've also got a few of the cool chill field stages like 6's Searching for Friends, 7's Judgment Day, and 10's Spira Unplugged as well.
Those are legendary tracks, by the way. Yeah, they got the chill stuff. I was super interested in like the upbeat shenanigans. The Dissidia section has some interesting arranges. Final Fantasy VI's Dancing Mad and Decisive Battle really get to shine. I also never really get sick of like the Super Nintendo era of boss songs, whether it's like Final Fantasy IV's final boss, the final battle, Final Fantasy V's Battle on the Big Bridge is one of my favorite JRPG tracks of all time. Final Fantasy VI's The Decisive Battle, and especially Mystic Quest 3 battle songs. I thought all those really are fantastic. And there's some niche picks. There was a thing among some streamer buddies where we would play The Skies Above in the deluxe packs, which is basically a vocal version of Final Fantasy X's 2 Xanarkin featured in the Black Mages 2 album. And those operatic vocals are so over the top, man. I don't know if you like and played that much, but I thought it was like super endearing.
Oh yeah, that one's great too. They've done such a great job with a lot of the different arrangements. They really pulled from a lot of different places for them too, so it's really hard to go wrong.
Yeah, it covers so many arrange albums. Yeah, we can't even like remotely scratch it. One final song was Crisis Core's Why, which is actually a really chill vocal song. But I feel like half the reason why we spammed it was because of the chorus where they turned Y into a 2-syllable word like what? Hi. And do you have any new favorites you hadn't really heard before?
So I haven't played any of the FF13 games because, you know, you've got the original and then 13.2 and Lightning Returns, but there's actually but there's a lot to enjoy in the soundtrack. I mean, people know Blinded by Light and a few others like the Sunleth Waterscape, but there's also a few other good ones like Etro's Champion and The Savior. There's a few really fun ones in there for sure. And also, I'm mostly just familiar with the very start of the Saga series, the Game Boy games mainly, but it was really great hearing a few other ones there, like Romancing Saga's Beat Them Up is fantastic, and Saga Frontiers T260G's Last Battle. That one was a really pleasant surprise.
It's got some nice beats, right? And to date myself, I heard that particular Last Battle song on like Winamp radio stations, like Big Mog Radio and stuff, way back in the day. So nice. I knew of it, even though I hadn't played Saga Frontier. Yeah, that's how legendary that song is, just spamming ye old Winamp radios.
Funny enough, I actually heard Beat Them Up somewhere else as well, like completely divorced of the context. And then I heard that and I was like, oh yeah, it's that song. No way.
It really beat you up memory-wise, so to speak. Without knowing anything about Final Fantasy XIV, I wasn't really sure what to expect, but I have a slightly better grasp on the song roster now, and I think I'd put Triumph up there. It's like sufficiently epic, and I guess Oblivion has some kind of silly chick rock vocals. It's pretty nice. And it's easy to forget, but the previous game came out well before Final Fantasy 15 did, so it didn't have any Final Fantasy 15 rep. And but the Dance of Silver and Crimson is really electrifying. And I had been rusty in all the arcade songs because I didn't really get to play arcade one too much, but all those songs are pretty upbeat, even though the charts can be pretty nasty. But and I have a soft spot for the douche rock in Neo The World Ends With You, like Breaking Free and World Is Yours. Those are just like those vocal tracks get me, man. I guess that's what it is. And one more vocal track I think is Go Go Steel Titan from Live Alive, which features vocals from Hironobu Kageyama of who is the most legendary anime song vocalist, Head Cha-La, and the gazillion other songs, right? So that really took me for a loop. Did you have any favorite DLC packs as your...
Well, I was really stoked for the Chrono Path.
Mm-hmm.
Chrono Trigger and Chrono Cross, but we got a really nice selection from Trigger in particular. Seeing a few longtime favorites like Corridors of Time and then To Faraway Times in there is great. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I already mentioned it, but the Saga packs really got me. I didn't expect there to be so many of them. It's a really good representation of plenty of games in the series.
I liked how it also even had Minstrel Song and Re-Universe, which probably not that many people know about. They really covered there's so many Saga songs in here. They really dove in, man. It was great.
Yeah. What were a couple that really stood out to you?
So I also agree with those Chrono packs. So I did kind of think it was funny how like Trigger vastly outnumbered Cross in terms of representation. Did you think that was like kind of funny?
A bit, yeah. Because I know there's some great songs besides the Scars of Time and the like in there, but yeah, just 2 tracks feels a little bit underwhelming.
Nah, man, Scars of Time's all you need. No, but I guess they kind of figured that people would be nostalgic for Trigger's music, even though, yeah, Cross has some cool ones too, but like, well, I mean, this game's got to be good for something. The audio-visual experience is great in Cross, but otherwise, we can't get into that. But I was genuinely captivated by the Nier content. It was fantastic playing Nier and then the one Replicant song in Automata. The stuff is great, man. And I thoroughly enjoyed Xenogears 3 picks, even though, like, 3 picks felt kind of chintzy. I can only imagine there was some sort of internal politics that prevented more tracks, but at least the 3 they picked were pretty good. And anybody who knows me knows I'm a big Mana series fanboy, so, like, having, like, 4 games between Final Fantasy Adventure, Secret of Mana, Trials of Mana, and Legend of Mana, it's fantastic having them all here, man. They made some solid picks across the board, and then, again, well, Darkness Nova is one of my favorite songs of all time, so that's all like fantastic. And I think the most memorable one is the Final Fantasy 16 pack. That just hit me like a brick. It's absolutely goated, and it's hard to pull away from that one, man. It's so much stuff in there. It's great. We'll dive more into 16 later, of course. But
oh yeah.
In terms of the note charts, I think there's some interesting note charts that really played some tricks with us, and one of them to me was like the Theatrhythm Final Fantasy curtain call special arrangement medley. Regardless of what difficulty you're on, I think it'll hit you with 4 simultaneous presses at the end, just out of nowhere. It's like, wait, what? You're just like chilling. It's like, surprise, sucker. Here's some things that you got to do all of a sudden. The most trolltastic chart of all is Battle of the Big Bridges All-Star Carnival arrangement, which is basically like really hard to read, and you have to juggle everything at the same time, and you essentially have to have like cat-like reflexes to make it through. It's just like too much. It's too much. And there was actually like a tournament for Final Bar Line at PAX West last year, and I was like too scared to like actually enter because I figured somebody out there might like use this as a counter pick. So then I was like, wait a second, I'm like, if I can't pass this song like without a gazillion potions and a gazillion spells, I don't know if I should do that. It was something. And Near Automata's Dependent Weak Link, it has a really wacky way of bamboozling you with double swipes and double button presses like between periods of chill. So I often joked it was kind of like a Yoko Taro troll chart, even though it's not. He probably has like nothing to do with it, but
it's very much in his spirit, though, right?
Exactly. Yes. What about you? Any troll charts?
Oh, I've got a couple in mind. Well, one I actually really like is Fight with Seymour from 10. So first of all, absolute banger of a track, but the chart's loads of fun. First of all, it has what we in the rhythm game community affectionately call a dump stream at the very start. It's just this massive stream of tap notes you got to keep the rhythm for.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then it throws in a bunch of tricky rhythms around the latter half. It's just a really fun chart all around.
Yeah, it follows the medley pretty well, pretty good for my recollection, though. But yeah, it's a troll. It's got some trolls in there.
Oh, but a real fun one is High Five from Final Fantasy VII Remake. So for particular reasons we'll get into later, but it's also got a lot of these 3 to 4 input sections where you're doing what we mentioned before. You're juggling a bunch of different holds. You got to know, okay, which button am I using for which hold? How do I switch these around? It is really fun, and it's a fun track too. But yeah, it's got some really funky tricks going on.
Yeah, I like that one a lot, but like it's so easy to screw up, and if you accidentally let go of like a button, that's like gonna like throw your rhythm off. So it's kind of funky, man. It's something.
Fine time.
So, as grandiose and fantastic as the song inclusions are, we do have some nitpicks. Very minor nitpicks, mind you, but nitpicks nonetheless. And the first question is, do you have any songs you wish were here?
Yeah, so this is maybe being a little too greedy, but it would have been nice to have a couple of those pixel remaster versions of tracks make it in. Hearing a few of them, especially 6 in particular, hearing a few of those would have been amazing to include, but yeah, I can understand why they left those out. I also kind of wish there'd been a few more tracks from Endwalker, because that had just come out recently. Like, you'd have a really cool field music chill stage for like Mare Lamentorum and so forth. But to be fair, 14's got a ton of representation. I think it's got 33 tracks total, so it's understandable.
Yeah, it's funky though, because I mean this game did come out February 2023, but Pixel Remaster did technically come out in the middle of 2021, so it kind of begs the question, like, what's that cutoff period? Like, at what point did songs needed to have come out, right? So that's like the interesting question. Personally, I sort of wanted English versions of some vocal tracks. Way of the World would have been really, really cool. I mean, I do like the Japanese version and all, but I wish we had the option. The biggest thing that stands out to me is Legend of Mana, Song of Mana. That's like a totally missed opportunity, and like I love that song. It's so like it's such a feel good track. It's like maybe there's some licensing. Just always blame it on the licensing, right? And so like Chrono Trigger does have fantastic picks. I don't think you really mess with any of those, though. Boss Battle 2 might be the closest to a song I'm kind of like, I think it's like fine on. It's got a good upbeat tempo, but I feel like Tyran Castle might have been a more interesting pick just in terms of like shaking things up, and it could have been like a field music track. Maybe they didn't really feel like the dun 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 dun. I don't know. Maybe they didn't feel like it. I don't know.
Yeah, I kind of agree. It's as boss themes go, you've already got some really good ones in there. Just the classic boss battle theme, Magus theme, and a few others. And World Revolution, I think that was the right pick over the final boss fight, too.
Oh, God. World Revolution is insanely good. Well, the last boss song is kind of more, it's almost ambience, more like a, I mean, it's a song technically, but yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm with you on that one.
Yeah. There's so many Final Fantasy games represented, but should they have included anything else? Which is kind of a weird one to answer because they did such a fantastic job. They have the right mix of mainline quote unquote games and extra stuff. But and so far as marketability goes, Stranger of Paradise and World of Final Fantasy are nice little things to touch on. Yet, despite that, I kind of wonder if maybe a few other oddballs might have helped round things out, just provide a little more icing on the cake. Like, I don't think we could have realistically expected the WiiWare era of wacko games like My Life as a King / Dark Lord or like Final Fantasy IV The After Years, but I don't really feel like including Final Fantasy Tactics Advance would have pushed things like that much. But I mean, if you include like 4 Heroes of Light, I feel like, oh wait, I can't get into that.
No, I agree. As far as Tactics Advance goes, it could have fit a few more things in there potentially. But I mean, outside of that, I feel they covered the bases pretty well as far as games go. On the other hand, roster-wise, I do feel they fleshed out a lot of those smaller earlier title casts, so like 1 through 3, you've got a lot more characters showing up that weren't in the past games. But there are a few other picks here and there, or some omissions I'm scratching my head over. Like, yeah, Mog is fun from 6, but I mean, you got him over someone like Sabin or Cyan, and you don't have Steiner from 9, or Freya for that matter, and even from 13, you've got Fang and Saz as well, but they don't show up. But it is honestly still really extensive series, and you're not going to be able to please anyone, no matter what your picks are. So we got a good selection.
Why do you need Fang or Saz when you've got Lightning too? Wait,
yeah, we get 2 Lightnings, and we don't get a bunch. You don't get a couple of the main series characters. Okay.
You gotta have some Lightning Returns rep, I guess so. There's a bit of an aside, which is the way they included the Smash Brothers Ultimate versions of Aerith's theme and Cosmo Canyon was really funny to me. They wrote them down as a collaboration title because you can't very well like promotes a Nintendo name in like a PlayStation game or whatever. I thought that was kind of funny, but we know what happened like from a mile away, right?
Oh yeah, I mean it is technically correct, but we're stretching it somewhat. We know what happened.
As another nitpick, every single time you scroll over the song list and you scroll past the Square Enix titles list, you'll hear Final Fantasy Legends Enraged Battle, which is like this high-octane chiptune song. I like that song a lot, but to be entirely honest, I don't think you really need to get those Kill the Creator vibes like just by scrolling through a list. Like, it's perfect for the context of the game, but I think like if you're just like kind of scrolling through and all of a sudden it's like spewing like high-pitched chirpy chiptunes at you, I'm not sure that's like the best decision. Personally, it's just kind of like oops all high-pitched out of nowhere, but like so maybe that's kind of like a thing they could have adjusted. I mean, I don't know about you, but
no, I'm definitely feeling that whenever you get to that section of the track and you just get that blasted at you, like I'm all amped
it's
up
blasted.
To attack and dethrone the creator, but it's still a bit jarring to go from whatever's next over just to that suddenly.
Yeah, I feel like maybe there's some alternative, but I know it's like chronologically probably apt, but at the same time, it's like I don't know. We gotta dive into some of the DLC predictions real quick, because when the game was announced, the last 2 packs were unknown. That we only knew they were slated for October and November. So personally, I really wanted Final Fantasy 16, but I wasn't really sure if it was a realistic expectation just because of how expansive it is. And also, like, it's kind of unprecedented to like introduce like a mainline game like on like again, like before, like Final Fantasy 15 just straight up was not there. So I wasn't really sure if like it was realistic to expect 16, right? And also, like, as for the other pick, we noticed that Bravely Default was there, but it was there in the previous game. So like I thought that was like especially strange, because if Bravely Default was there, like realistically speaking, like it should have been announced already. So like unbeknownst to me, Bravely Default 2 was actually like part of that pack. Like I didn't necessarily expect it. I don't know about you, but like did you happen to think about Bravely Default 2? Because I totally forgot that was a possibility.
No, that totally slipped my mind. I mean, I was already scratching my head over what else could they include at this point. But yeah, that skipped me. I just completely blanked on that. And wouldn't you know, it was Bravely Default 2 all along.
It could have been Brave Fencer Musashi all along. I'm just kidding. It's Final Track. Fine. I don't want to piss off any Bravely fans. Those songs are good. But but yeah, I was kind of joking that they could have done pixel remaster stuff for one of these packs. But it didn't happen, of course. But yeah, like so it happened, right? So then a few weeks beforehand, they announced Bravely and Bravely 2, and then during PAX West 2023, the magic happened, right? So there was a Voices from Valve's Theta voice actor panel. So it was expected that basically some of the esteemed voice actors behind like Clive, Joshua, and several other characters, they were basically like going to be on stage talking about the game. But then the first slide straight up says surprises. And I'm like, wait, what? Surprises? Huh, what? So like they do the whole rigmarole, and the panel is really, really funny, by the way. It's up on YouTube. If you've played 16, it's a hoot for sure. But like as part of the surprises, so like they touched on like the PC port of the game, and they touched on like the DLC for 16. Those are big surprises. But like what really bamboozled me is that they announced the last Final Bar Line DLC pack during this panel. It was insane. Like I couldn't fucking believe it. I took pictures of it. I sent pictures to everyone on Discord, including you. And I'm sure I was among like 14 people who was super hyped for this. I'm sure like 90% of the crowd was more hyped about the PC port or whatever, right? But like I thought this was crazy good. And they literally said on stage, yo, we have so many tracks. This is like a good value for and stuff like that. I was like, this is like absolutely nuts. It was absolutely nuts.
Oh, yeah, and I haven't even experienced 16 myself, but really, I can't think of a better finish to all the DLC. And they made it this supersized drop, like you said. So, and there's some really nice tracks in there, even without the added context of playing the game. Like, if you know it's going to be good if it stands on its own that well, too.
Absolutely. And if you do know the game, though, the jacket covers and the fights are really, really funny. Like, did you have any particular thoughts as you were seeing the jacket covers? Because, like, if you know, you know.
Yeah, I've heard a couple little rumblings here and there that I think apply to a couple. And if so, that is pretty fun what they did there, too. Yeah.
There's a good fan service. Yeah. It's great. Diving more into the replayability, like the end game, as it were, we gotta dive into the prickly quests, right? Because there's some things in this game, as accessible as some of the things are a little prickly. And for me, taking out Kefka, like as part of that last quest in the Final Fantasy VI track, that takes quite a bit of firepower. I couldn't do that one for a while. There was an Advent Children quest to take out 4 or more safer Sephiroths, which actually kind of makes sense for Advent Children, come to think of it. Kind of a funny little joke. And there were some other ones that required some like thought in order to figure out. Like summoning things, calling out summons 4 more times just isn't going to happen unless you have a specific team, right? It's just so. Did you have any other particular prickly things too?
Well, this is something you get once you've gone through it all, but endless mode just alone has really thrown me for a loop. It's broken my heart, as in my literal in-game hearts. You don't meet an objective, you lose one of your 3 hearts, and lose them all, and you're done. But they get some really nasty quests in there. One time I got this really solid perfect chain, really good score, but sorry, you needed 13,000 damage. You only had 12,929. That's just not going to be good enough.
Oh my god.
It's cool though. Some of these really test your ability to put together teams like tailor-made for defeating a lot of enemies, getting loads of summons off, and some things, even if you somehow got all rainbow criticals, you're not going to get those if you don't have the build. It's fun, but it gets really brutal sometimes.
Yeah, in retrospect on stream, I think I like did an endless run, and I think I like got a full combo, and I had presumed I did enough damage, but then it's like womp womp womp. You didn't meet the criteria, so you lost a life. I'm like, I did a full combo. go, goddammit. But no, you didn't do enough damage. So there goes your life. Like, come on. Yeah, there's sometimes as you progress through Endless, it bamboozles you, man. It's a lot. If they ask you to do like abilities like 60 times, like you really got to think about it. Like, I think we were sitting there like just trying to figure it out one time, and like this is so specific. It's so specific. Anything that requires elemental damage, it's like it's kind of a fun little like challenge, because I have to be like, well, who has it? Oh, Goldblast has lightning damage, but like upon initial glance, you might not necessarily know. So that's kind of fun, but yeah, it ain't the easiest in the face of the planet. And we asked this question previously on Rhythm Game Oddities and Obscurities, but we may as well ask it again. Do we have any favorite characters this time around?
So I'm a longtime fan of Terra. She and Yuna in particular were a couple of the first characters I maxed out. I had a lot of fun with
Max Terra.
Yeah, and I had a lot of fun with the Stola duo as well. They've even got different roles depending on what your party needs. And Zidane is always one of my most played, just because getting all those collector cards is tough, and he's got the goods for that, for sure.
You gotta have the thieves to get the goods, man. And I gotta agree with the Zidane pick. I had a thief team with him and Fran, Riku, and Balthier for farming cards. And we'll get into the farming part pretty soon. But I got a team just for that. I'm just such a big Rydia and Terra fan, so I often had them around if I wanted to score some damage. But strangely, Minwoo from Final Fantasy II is my most played. I think it's because I got to get them heals on some of them harder tracks, I guess. But and I also got some more mileage out of Ramza from Final Fantasy Tactics, and Bartz from 5. I got some more mileage than expected, just because Mimic is such a gimmicky, useful skill in specific contexts. Like, it's really unwieldy, but I kind of use them more than expected. We touched upon some of the prickliness, but the game has 100 achievements. Were any of these particularly prickly for you?
Oh, there's a couple that are really nasty. Like, first of all, remember the high five from earlier? Well, one of the feats is get 9.8 million out of 10 million possible for a supreme chart. And let's be honest, that's probably the most reasonable one to do that with, and it's still super tough. I've gotten within what feels like striking distance, but it's just really hard to get those last few points to that 9.8 million mark. And that's tricky to get on most difficulties, really, but on Supreme, it's like, whoa.
Yeah, so that's the last feat I need. I gotta get a 9.8 million on Supreme, and I can't do it because every single time I do it, I'm like 9.6 million or something like that. You just gotta grind the song a lot, I guess. And the very thing that makes this a recommended pick for achieving this score makes it kind of weird, because it's oops all whole notes, but if you whiff a whole note, that's actually like 20 misses, right? So and so you not only that, so you have to like hold 2 or 3 things at once, and you have to worry about pressing another button like in time with the music. So like it's very easy to screw it up, basically. And the first half of it is not bad whatsoever, but then like there's a little bit of prickly parts like in the second half that it's very easy to get like one too many greats or something like that, and you'll just like miss that threshold. So like you gotta like really nail those critical hits, right? You can't just be great, you gotta be critical. or whatnot, right? So yeah, that one eludes me to this day. Achieving a perfect chain streak of 1,500 notes on Endless World takes a bit of doing. Like, you just gotta focus and just don't screw it up. But that one's not too bad. And then I think it took me a little while to do 20 stages in Endless, because there's some weird stuff in that mode. And speaking of Endless mode, do you think it's paced particularly well? Because like it's fun, but it's kind of weird, right?
Yeah, it is a really neat concept, but sometimes it really feels better just doing it a few songs at a time rather than just all in one run, especially if you're doing something like that 20-plus one. But the nice thing is the game does let you save your current progress. So if you want to take a break,
yeah, it does.
You can just pause that, come back to it later. But you really, really need to get into the whole party building aspect. When we talk about abilities, each character has little techniques they can equip. Maybe they'll do a special like physical attack or a magic attack. You've got your classic spells like Fire, Firaga, and even character-specific ones like Terra's Riot Blade. But at the same time, it can be tricky to juggle all of those and put together whatever you need for the particular purpose. And again, you could do as well as you like, but sometimes you just can't hit all those objectives unless you're super dialed into what they want.
Yeah, it's super specific, right? So like I would say the first 10-ish stages like generally aren't like too bad, but like you can get totally walled by something random if you're not really prepared for it. So like kind of the expectations that you're like geared up and ready to go, but like it's hard to account for all the possibilities. Like, what do you mean I gotta do like 60 abilities? Like, so it's like I think the pace is kind of haphazard, but I do like enjoy the mode in general for what it is. I'm glad it's here. It's just like it's kind of hard to build an expectation, especially as it progresses, for like how it's gonna shake down. But it is pretty hype, like keeping the run alive with all these things going on. But yeah, it's just the pacing's kind of all over the place. We kind of touched on this briefly, but there's an online multiplayer mode, and I thoroughly enjoyed the online matches. And for the first few months, I would play with Ampy all the time, and some other friends, and having bursts on leads to all sorts of shenanigans, all sorts of modifiers, and trying to read notes is like there's a giant chocobo in your faces all the time, and the harsher like judgment notes still get me like even now. And so like the online player base has like largely dwindled, but like even like about like the end of 2023 I was still able to like see a few matches here and there. And so like of course, since we both had this on Switch, we were able to play with each other, but from what I've heard on PS4, like I heard the matchmaking that was kind of more sparse. We can't really speak to that, but I can imagine that was probably the case. Back when the matches still were running, I didn't really have the most aspirations of winning most like ultimate or hell like supreme difficulty matches, because there's some rhythm game killers out there. And if someone picks like bursts on like ultimate, that's like sicko mode. That's like peak sicko mode right there. It's so rough. But I've totally like played with a rando and done like 10 songs just like back to back, and it's interesting to see what people pick. I'm inclined to lean towards the NES and Super Nintendo stuff, but I've totally seen people spam like PS1 and PS2 era stuff, and you just never know what people are going to pick. It's great.
Yeah, I didn't end up doing too much online stuff outside of the matches we did together, but generally I'm in agreement here. It's one other fun thing I'm just thinking about now is whoever your lead character is, you've got all these built-in phrases you can like send to each other on
it's custom per character. That's right. Yeah.
And yeah, like you'll have specific lines referenced from the games. Whether you win or you lose, you get different ones. Sometimes I had full-on conversations going back and forth of like trash talking each other.
It's so good. Oh my god. Yeah, there's a lot of character injected into the game. I forgot about the quotes. Yeah, that's great. Oh my god. Speaking of quotes, when you play online, there's a Moogle, there's a faux esports commentator Moogle, and that says stuff, and you can turn their volume down, but you can't turn them off. And so they'll say things regardless of how appropriate they are. So like I've totally heard you're in first, Kupo, near the beginning of a match. And conversely, I've also heard you're falling behind, Kupo, on like the second note. Well, like fucking excuse me, like I'm sorry for like screwing up on the second note. And like I've cracked so many jokes about how they're like one step removed from saying "get bent, Kupo." If only you stopped getting so many goods for once in your life, Kupo. Your life suffering could be over if you just get a few more rainbow criticals, Kupo. It's like leave me alone, man. Leave me alone. And so unbeknownst to me, I actually didn't realize that the Moogle voice actor has actually like voiced the past few Final Fantasy games. So they've actually been a constant this entire time. So like when I was playing Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and I heard that voice, it like brought all this shit back to me.
The wacky Moogle announcer is a whole thing, but it's all fun and games until you learn to start fear this little danger creature saying, "Judgment coming your way, Kupo. I'm Judge General Executioner, Kupo. I'm sharpening my knife, Kupo." Yeah,
it's like really helping. That's helping me stay on top. Let me tell you what, it's great. Yeah, it's funny, but I'm just like, oh my god, like that was a choice. That was a choice.
Fine time.
this game is so immense. It's so fantastic. But we do have to address, as we often do, what could this game have done better? And one of the things I kind of thought about was certain stats. Doesn't really explain, like, specifically what stats do. Like, the internet was kind of in a tizzy whether or not spirit really influences summons or whether it really influences, like, other things. So, like, that part was kind of a little weird.
Yeah, like overall, they do have little fun character class icons for the cast. So you've got defense characters are pretty durable, hunter characters are frail, but they're good at finding treasures. But that's mainly what you have in mind for, okay, this character should be doing this. But the actual numbers get pretty vague because it's not really as linear as it seems. Like if you've got 1,000 HP, that doesn't mean you can take 10 times as many hits as 100 HP. And I haven't done the math on just damage values. It's just the general, number up equals good kind of setting.
Right.
They did actually remove defense and magic defense as stats this time around. So now it's just HP that determines how many misses you can get and so forth. Also, it's pretty subtle, but they actually balanced how all the characters are stat-wise. Because back in Curtain Call, at least, there were some characters that were clearly more powerful. If they're like fan faves or they're OP in their games, like Sephiroth or Orlando, whereas poor Princess Sarah just doesn't get anywhere near the same amount of stats. But now actually everyone's pretty balanced out. You've got a few little variations within the roles, but ultimately you can just bless them with dozens of stat boosting items, and that doesn't even really matter. You can then it just kind of becomes more an ability game. Like some characters still stand out there.
Yeah, it kind of becomes a matter of which built-in like ability you kind of like, or like which character you like, I guess, right? But you can compensate for a lot of stuff just by stat boosting, which is nice. The game also, to my recollection, does not actually tell you that summons take different amounts of gauge to activate. So like in some cases you might not necessarily just want to run like the same summon each and every single time. I kind of didn't really realize that at first.
I didn't know about that either, but honestly, I think it's a pretty cool change. Like you've got Knights of the Round making a big reappearance, but it's not always the best pick. Sure, it hits like a truck, but it'll take longer to activate than something quick like Phoenix or Leviathan or a couple of the quicker ones. And if you deem to do one of those, do 4 summons in a quest, then you're not going to get that with the Knights of the Round. But Phoenix, maybe you've got a shot.
Knights, what do you mean Knights of the Round's not the best summon in all cases?
Travesty.
Fucked up. One thing I kind of would have liked was making the process of hunting down all the different collecticons.
Well, you're not wrong.
Decepticons. All the different collector cards. I feel like it was kind of a bit of a trick to like track down all of them, which is something you have to do for some of the feats. And for the albums, I had to track down. I had to cross-check numbers with like an online list, and like I feel like maybe showing that stuff over the song in question might have like helped to some degree. But like, yeah, I didn't really know until like I just had like stared at like these lists or like whatever, and I don't really know the best way of hunting down character cards, but for me personally, to hunt down those cards and like the one summon card that just wouldn't drop, I basically picked Price of Freedom from Crisis Core, and I just played the hell out of it. I don't even know how many times, like over 100 times. I just played the shit out of that song, and eventually I got what I needed. But
yeah, I mean, it felt kind of like characters are more likely to drop from songs in their own series, but even if there's a difference, it takes a long time. Like, I only very recently wrapped up the whole roster. You got 104 characters, and you got 4 rarities for each. So, I mean, that's going to take a long time when it's all random like that.
Yeah, when you phrase it that way, it's a lot, man. Yeah, but I mean, it's cool there's that many characters, but at the same time, it's like, geez. I to be super nitpicky, I feel like a few more options for note readability would have been nice. I've biffed so many double swipes, just because like it's probably slightly harder to read them than I would have liked. Maybe some like different like sort of colors or something would have helped. Because like whenever the swipes are like inwards, I like my brain takes a split second to process it, and by the time it does, it's like too late. And it's just I just whiffed that a lot. But like despite that, there are other cases where I would have preferred like having like a little more than double speed. Maybe that's just like arcade brain speaking, but like a few more options in that regard would have been cool. But
yeah, those double swipes in particular mess me up. I know it's by design, but sometimes they'll switch it up and have the arrows pointing inward instead of outward from the note, and that messes me up like every time. And I'm definitely in agreement. Something even faster than ×2 speed for something like Battle of the Big Bridge, it really feels like ×2 is not enough. So anything really dense like that, yeah, even more speed would be nice. But I also wouldn't mind maybe some more defined borders on the notes so they pop a little bit easier on the screen. Although the nice thing is they do have a colorblind friendly option for the colors of the triggers. So if you don't like the standard red, yellow, green, or that's difficult to discern, they've got sort of an orange and blue and kind of pale green sort of that works a little bit better.
Yeah, the colorblind friendly options. Yeah, those are super, super cool. They kind of lump all the DLC into one Square Enix list. It is called Final Bar Line because it doesn't have just Final Fantasy, so why not have like separate mana or like saga lists, right? But as it kind of stands, you kind of have to go through like the whole rigmarole and scroll a bunch. So like that's kind of a little weird. And the other nitpick is that not adding characters as DLC, like I understand there's probably like a technical reason for it, but like having Clive from Final Fantasy 16 really would have fleshed things out. I know that's probably too much to expect.
No, I agree. It would have been a nice little touch there. I mean, technically, you could fit a few others in there as well, but honestly, it just feels odd having all these great songs and then just no one to really represent the series.
Yeah, again, yeah, because it is Final Bar Line. It's not just Final Fantasy, but the characters don't reflect that. It's the characters are just Final Fantasy for the most part, right? So it's like kind of, well, it's a little weird.
One thing in particular that I'm noticing more, especially for some tracks, it'd really be nice to have a song length somewhere listed on your selection, because some of the songs are a lot longer than others, and it would be a good idea to know, what you're getting into. And also on that note, I mean, this is being extra nitpicky, but it would be cool if it displayed how many of each type of trigger are there. So is this a song with a lot of holds? Have I got to watch out for that? Or does it have a lot of taps? So I probably got to do a lot of really fast movements.
Yeah.
And some abilities activate based on the type of triggers you get. Like Fire and Fire-Aga are cued off of hitting a lot of taps. So you could orient your abilities around, okay, this type of chart. It would be pretty handy.
Yeah, that kind of brings to mind like the DDR, like what do you want to call that? It shows like voltage and it shows like jumps, or well, do you remember they use like funky English or like air? I think is on in DDR Extreme. I think that's like you know what I'm talking about, right? The little graph.
Yeah, like that's kind of what I was thinking of, a little sort of grid like that where you get a sense of, okay, what kind of song is this? That would be pretty nice for that.
I want to know how much air High Five has. Yeah, so I don't know where else to mention this, but the game was bugged on leap year. So if you try to play the game on February 29th, it straight up wouldn't boot. Which I thought was really, really funny because I do some daily logins to rig some of the birthdays, but presumably it needs to run a check to cross-check whose birthday it is, if there is a birthday, but I guess you can't do that on leap year, apparently, and I thought that was hysterical, that it wouldn't boot. I don't know if this has been since patched, and I don't want to change my system clock to find out, but I thought that was great.
Yeah, it seems like kind of an important oversight there. Like, I'm guessing this is going to happen 4 years from now, unless that patch fixed things up. But yeah,
see you in 2028, sucker. But it's also the weirdest thing. So, like, I don't know why Final Fantasy characters have birthdays, because it's not like the games have like a Gregorian calendar or anything. So I don't. Well, there's no precedent for knowing these. So at least for like King of Fighters, where like the SNK Global Twitter is all like, by the way, it's so-and-so's birthday today. At least those, like, King of Fighters kind of has a basis in the real world, right? Sort of. But, like, Final Fantasy games don't use a calendar, so why do they have birthdays? It's so weird to me. I don't know. It's strange.
It is kind of a weird deal. Like, kind of feels like they wouldn't all be the same system, but, I guess it's just fun to have. It is fun to have the little celebrations.
I do like the little graphic because it plays the happy birthday track a little bit, and then it plays like the Final Fantasy theme. So or the fanfare that plays the fanfare. That's like okay, whatever. But I do also appreciate how it shows like game anniversaries too. I think that's also kind of a nice touch as well. We got to move on some big questions to top things off, to conclude things in a sufficiently epic fashion, or at least we can try. So to lead things off, is this the best home rhythm game of all time?
Well, honestly, Final Fantasy is pervasive enough that even if you haven't played many of the games, or even any of the games really, you've probably heard a handful of these songs just by proximity, if you're into games in any capacity. And there's this really big wealth of good hits to explore. And the game-to-play mechanics don't get too overwhelming. You've got 3 of these different types of triggers compared to like a lot more in some other rhythm games out there. Mm-hmm. But you still get a lot of versatility with the note charts. So it's a lot of possibilities there.
I think Final Fantasy's pervasive, and this game has so many accessibility options that ultimately, to me, this is the king of home rhythm games. I would imagine a good sizable number of people would say Rock Band or something like that, and that's a perfectly fine choice. But the sheer amount of content and love for game history is insane. Right? So DG Master Spectrum, Project Diva, Future Tone / Megamix Plus are immense. But those games are relatively hardcore, and this is a game that I could recommend to anyone. I really genuinely believe that it is absolutely the king of home rhythm games in a way that no previous game has ever been. And which is to say, it's probably the most predictable answer, but is it worth getting the deluxe or premium edition? Which is to say 1,000 times yes. If you're remotely interested in rhythm games or Final Fantasy, 1,000 times yes, absolutely.
Honestly, it's a really good package all in all. And even with the premium cost, it's better than, we mentioned some other past rhythm games. Some of those DLC costs could really even outstrip whatever this is offering here. It really feels like it's worth it with all the love they put into crafting every aspect of this.
Yeah, and if you do deluxe, you get those vocal tracks. If you do premium, you get all the DLC included with it. And again, the DLC has backgrounds and other like whimsical touches too. It's like, so it's not literally just a track. You actually get like nice presentation elements on top of that as well. There is kind of a slightly there is a bit of a question that's slightly loaded. And was it a mistake just launching on Nintendo Switch and PlayStation 4? Like, why just these 2 platforms? Should this have happened on Steam? Like, would it have reached more people that way? It's like, it feels like a bit of an oversight, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's hard to say why that would be part of the case, though. I think one thing we talked about was, maybe licensing's a part of it all.
Yeah, it might have been a licensing thing. Maybe they were afraid of mods of some kind, because like if you do release it on these 2 platforms, it does lock things down. But it's just kind of like, I feel like they might have missed a sizable player base that way, man. I don't know. It feels a little strange. And there are other rhythm games on Steam, so but maybe like Square is just kind of holding on to them licenses. I guess they don't want their tracks to be kind of like misappropriated? ? It seems kind of weird. I don't know. To get out of the weeds a little bit, will we ever see another Theatrhythm Final Fantasy game? And I think it's so hard to one up this. Like, if this is it, is a hell of a way to go.
Yeah, we've brought up a few things here and there. They could change or add it, but it's still just a really complete package as it is. I'd be happy to see another entry, but this is a fine note to end on if this is the finale of it all.
Yeah, I assume it's it, but we never really know now, do we, right? So it's just, I don't know. Do we have Dream Theatrhythm games? Which is to say, I've got 2. I'd like to see Theatrhythm Dragon Quest come back on Switch, because that game is stuck on Japanese 3DSs, and it would be kind of nice to have a wider release. And the Edict side of things isn't really represented in this game whatsoever, so, like, give us a Soul Blazer trilogy, like, Valkyrie profile, Star Ocean, give us all the stuff, man. That'd be kind of nice. And I don't expect this to ever happen, but an Atelier rhythm game, oh baby Jesus, like the possibilities are absolutely insane given the series' rich musical history. I don't know. Do you have any picks?
I mean, I definitely echo the sentiment. It'd be neat to see the Dragon Quest one come back and be updated for some of the more recent things too. I only got to play a little bit of that thanks to you, but it would be cool to see what they would do with it now.
That game doesn't have Dragon Quest 11 in it, and that music is godlike. That would be great. But yeah, so as a bit of closing remarks, to this day, we still have plenty left to do in this game. There are always goals to attain, and with this much variety, I can't imagine we'd ever get sick of the game. And if this is indeed potentially the last Theatrhythm game, I think it's a pretty good way to go, just in the same sense that like Super Smash Bros. Ultimate has that sense of finality. And if truly you have a passing interest in music games or Final Fantasy, this is just a fantastic game.
This has just been a consistent go-to game for me ever since the release. I'll just boot it up, play a few daily charts. Maybe I'll try some of the more challenging charts that I still haven't even explored at this point, let alone actually beaten. There's a whole lot of adjustability no matter what your skill level is, and there's plenty of appeal regardless of your familiarity with the series. It's just honestly a fantastic overall package.
It absolutely is. So, yeah, hopefully, people got a glimpse of like why we're so into it, and yeah, it's just so hyped talking about this game, man. And Ambulux, thanks for joining. It's been a lot of fun chatting about some Final Bar Line with you, and yeah, man, definitely appreciate your time.
Definitely happy to be back for another one of these, and thanks for having me on.
You're very welcome. Thanks a bunch. Check the description of this podcast to see our names on social media, and we'll see you next time. Bye.